Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, last week was massive for MW2. We saw the worldwide reveal. We saw our very first gameplay reveal with Summer Games Fest. But obviously, the majority of that content was focused on single player. However, through my early look at the game with several other creators, we were able to learn a decent amount on multiplayer, and while I've covered some bits and pieces of it in some previous videos, today I wanted to focus exclusively on MW2 Multiplayer and what we know about it so far. As we break it all down, if you enjoy the video, let me know by dropping a like on it, and if you're new here, feel free to hit that sub button. We are on the road to 1 million subscribers. So first things first here, pretty much the same thing happens every year with COD reveals. We see the main reveal focused around the campaign and single player and new features with the game. Then a little while later, we end up getting the multiplayer reveal, usually in late summer, and that's quickly followed by a beta of some kind. Now, thanks to all the trailers and everything so far, we already know a beta is confirmed for MW2, but it's just listed as later this year. I would assume probably sometime in August or September. But with that, that'll be the first time we're going to be able to see footage and get our hands on Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer. I would assume that reveal will happen sometime in maybe early August, and then we'll get the beta for the game late August, early September, just based off of years past. And per usual, when it comes to the beta itself, if you pre-order the game, you do get early access to it. I'd imagine we're going to have 2 separate beta weekends because it's also mentioned that PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 are going to get access first. So we'll probably initially see a PlayStation beta weekend where on, Friday, it's exclusive to PlayStation pre-orders, and then Saturday and Sunday, it's just exclusive to PlayStation players. Then the next weekend, pre-orders once again get access on Friday, and then it opens up for everybody on Saturday and Sunday, once again based off of history. So that's when we can expect to actually get our hands on the game. But outside of that, we already have, like I said, a lot of details on what to expect for different multiplayer aspects. Now, first and foremost, Ricochet is going to be included here with Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer on day one. Of course, it's ever evolving, constantly improving and adapting to whatever cheats may be out there. It's not flawless. Cheats are going to get past it, but it is going to be included on day one. Now, Infinity Ward explained to us that their core pillars of multiplayer this year are based on supporting established players with, every feature that's in the game. You'll be familiar with a lot of things in this game because it is COD multiplayer, but they also want to embrace emergent players, people who are trying out the game for the first time, players who are expanding their skill in game, going from maybe a more casual player to someone who's grinding a lot more, going for camos, going for higher kill streaks, whatever the case may be. And they want to, without a doubt, have the best multiplayer FPS game out there. They are very proud of what they've developed so far, as you would be when you spend this much time making a game. Now, as far as the content for multiplayer, it's focused around being very inclusive towards basically every kind of play style, but not limiting it to, only certain things will work in this play style, only certain things will work with that play style. Whether you are a rushing player who's super aggressive, or maybe a more defensive player who likes to camp a little bit more, or if you're someone who's a little bit more tactical, there's going to be things that you can utilize, but it's not just limited to you. You can use things from all different types of classes, all different types of play styles, and make it work for you. Specifically when it comes to those 3 different play styles, though, rushing, playing a little bit more passive or defensively, and playing more tactically, the default loadouts will represent those well, they said. And even with that, gunfights are going to be very unique. One-on-one gunfights will have a lot of variety based on different player movement mechanics, and there's a lot of movement mechanics that we're going to get to here in just a brief second. But also there's vehicle gameplay that'll change up one-on-one gunfights, and there's also new equipment that can change things up quite a bit as well. Now, like I said, movement in this game is going to be crazy just because there's so many different options. They didn't go into exact specifics in the briefing that I took part in about whether or not we're going to see the same exact things from Warzone and Modern Warfare 2019 with tac sprint and slide canceling everything, but they also didn't say they weren't in the game. So truly, that's just up to 50-50 whether it is or isn't, but they did expand a lot on the new mechanics. For one, swimming. We know water is going to have a very prominent, impact in this game, I guess you could say. It's going to be on a lot of maps. It's going to impact gameplay and gunfights in a lot of ways. With the water and with swimming in the game, visibility is going to change whether you're in or out of the water, looking into the water, in the water, looking out of the water. You know, you can have different escape routes and evasion routes because of that in, you know, SND or whatever mode we have like that. That could be a huge turning point in a match. There's also brand new combat quote unquote rules with water and with swimming. Ballistics works entirely different underwater, which I love. That's the one thing when they started talking about water, I was like, I really hope they went the realistic route with that, so that gunfights are different in water versus out of water, and they confirm that's the case. Ballistics and bullet velocity is going to be entirely different, and when you're underwater in multiplayer, you can't be using your regular weapons. It is pistols and melee weapons only. That way you can't like abuse it to any certain extent, right? Which is very interesting, I would say. There's also going to be different boats and different amphibious vehicles available on certain maps or in certain modes. And something else that I think is pretty interesting, they said certain equipment actually interacts in special ways with water. Obviously, frags can be thrown into the water and blow up there and do their thing, but proximity mines can actually float and be triggered in the water, which I thought was pretty interesting. There's also going to be a brand new diving mechanic, and I'm not talking about diving into the water. I'm talking about like a dolphin dive-esque mechanic that they went into a little bit of detail here. It's a lot based around traversal maneuvering, right? Using a dive to get out of the way of a gunfight or get behind cover. You can still slide in this game. They did confirm sliding is going to be a thing, but you can also incorporate diving into your gameplay as well to make for some interesting situations. And then another one that I think is going to be especially beneficial for like Warzone, ledge hanging. Right now, the auto mantle feature in Warzone is one of the most obnoxious things in the game. Jumping and mantling over things you don't want to mantle over is super annoying mid gunfight, but if you have a ledge hang mechanic like what they talked about, you'll be able to jump up onto a ledge and then decide if you want to go all the way over it, if you want to hang on it and jump back down, if you want to hang on it and platform over to a different ledge or a different piece of you know, environment that's around you. You can also peek over ledges with pistols and whatnot. Very cool mechanic there that I think is going to be very tactical and sort of, again, gearing towards that certain play style there, where if you really want to play like that, there is going to be means to do so on a lot of the maps. Vehicle gameplay also seems to be a pretty big thing this year, especially on like the battle maps, which we'll talk more about here momentarily, but they've redesigned a lot of different vehicle mechanics. You can now lean out of windows when you're a passenger or a driver. You can climb on top of rooftops and engage that way. You can knock doors off of other vehicles, so obviously it'll be easier to hit players. You can blow out tires and mess up the steering of other players. There will be helicopter variants that can actually carry players in them, where you're not stuck in a locked seat. You can actually move around in the helicopter. Like we talked about earlier, there's different amphibious vehicles as well, so lots of variety when it comes to vehicular gameplay. As I mentioned earlier, there is going to be some new equipment, things like the tactical camera field upgrade. Pretty self-explanatory. You can throw this down and actually use the camera without being in that direct line of sight. You can go into cover, use that camera to spot if enemies are on the flank or if they're in a certain area, so that'll be pretty cool. There's also a drill charge lethal that almost acts as a mobile grenade detonator. There's a DDoS or an EMP field upgrade that knocks out enemy comms and whatnot. There's also an inflatable decoy, which is about what it sounds. It's a Kevlar dummy that also doubles as a mine that looks kind of goofy, and I can only imagine squads are going to all use these at once, go into one place on a map and just deploy all of them, so it looks absolutely ridiculous. I cannot wait to see those moments in game. Now moving on, let's talk a bit about the maps. There's two main map styles that they discussed with us. Battle maps, which are like ground war maps, you could say, large and exploratory, and then the core maps, which are 6v6 and small and refined. Now, battle maps are actually direct POIs from the Warzone 2 map, so that's something to be, taking note of. And they learned a lot from Verdansk when building these maps. They're built from day one for large-scale combat, and it's not just going to be limited to like ground war domination. There will be alternative modes for the battle maps as well. There's one map that's more urban-based that they talked about, where you can go in and out a lot of the buildings and climb on the buildings. Very cool stuff there. There's also a different map, Sarif Bay, that they talked about that's like a fishing village, and you can go underwater and explore the map that way too. So a lot of variety, it seems like, when it comes to those maps as well. Then for the core maps, these are exclusively built for 6v6. They talked about 3 of them to us. They didn't really preview them all that much outside of the name and the location. One was called Museum. That one's set in Spain. One was called Grand Prix. That's set in a racetrack in Asia at night while the race is still going, so I'm sure the audio on that one's going to be crazy. Then also Farm 18, which is supposedly like a more compact map. It's at an undisclosed training facility, so I imagine something like DOS House almost, I would say. So definitely some diversity when it comes to the maps, and a little bit of something for everyone, it seems. Next up, theater mode was actually confirmed to not be in the game at launch, but it was not ruled out for later on down the line. So hopefully we see that happen. It'd be awesome for creator tools. I'd love to mess around with that and make some more unique content outside of, you know, the typical loadouts and news and whatnot. Lastly, I do want to talk a little bit about modes. They talked briefly about 2 new modes debuting, and then also they did confirm Gunfight is going to be returning to the game, not at launch, but as a seasonal mode sometime later on down the line. So we can confirm Gunfight is going to be back. As far as the new modes go, we've got Knockout and we've got Prisoner Rescue. Knockout is like, I don't know, King of the Hill and Gunfight combined, kind of. There's a package that you want to hold that makes you the king, and the last person with that package wins the game, but also it's got the gunfight aspects of having similar loadouts and being able to navigate the game and play the game like you would in Gunfight. And then Prisoner Rescue is basically like search and destroy, but there's, instead of a bomb, prisoners that you either have to protect and eliminate the enemy team, or secure the prisoners and escort them out and carry them out and save them that way, or again, eliminate the enemy team to win. So a bit of a different objective there. So yeah, with that being said, that's effectively everything we currently know about multiplayer in Modern Warfare 2 right now, and that's gonna wrap things up for today. As we get any new information on multiplayer, on any other aspect of MW2 or Warzone 2, you already know I got you guys covered, so stick it here for that and everything else going on in COD. Make sure you're subscribed with those noties turned on. And if you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. As always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL for a discount on all Scuff, G Fuel, Gamer Advantage, and Control Freak products. The links for all those can be found down in the description below. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.